Welcome everyone. The time is 9 o'clock, so I'm thinking that we're starting a webinar right away. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Elin Wallén and I will be the moderator of this webinar today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation when we have Kredinor with us, one of the leading debt collection and portfolio companies in the Nordics, to share their journey with ProfitBase, one of our products here at Hypeen. With us from Kredinor, we have Jörgen and Magnus, who works as controllers at Kredinor. Welcome. And from Hypeen, Daniel Eliasson, our sales lead and head of go-to-market. Kredinor operates within debt collection, claims administration and portfolio investments, and their main market in Norway and a presence across the other Nordic countries. In this webinar, we will talk about how they moved from Excel-based planning to a more structured digital approach and what that has actually meant in practice. I'm thinking that I'm handing over to you, Daniel. Welcome, guys.
Well, thank you, Elin. And before we get started, Magnus, Jörgen, could you please tell us a little bit about Kredinor and about your roles? What is it you guys do?
Yes, thanks for having us today. My name is Magnus Labelund. I'm a controller at Kredinor. I've been here for 4 years now, and my responsibility is some of the divisions in Kredinor. It's commercial, it's digital and technology, and people. And like all other business controllers, we are doing financial controlling, budgeting, reporting, Jörgen and I, and together with 4 other controllers. And we are former professional athletes, which of course affects our way of working. More of that later.
Yes, my name is Jörgen Christi Halle. I'm a business controller for a different area than Magnus. My main area is Kredinor Finans, which is the investment part of Kredinor. And in addition to being a former athlete, which is of course very important, I love new tech and systems, so I'm always on the lookout for improvements in our business. Magnus and I are the main people who are driving our work with ProfitBase and are responsible for the final outcome.
A couple of minutes or 1-2 minutes about Kredinor. Founded in 1905. Fairly old, but not as old as Schibsted, as you may know. Schibsted founded in 1839, so compared to Schibsted, we're quite young. We are 662 employees spread across 4 countries, and out of these employees, 400 of these are handling cases on behalf of our clients. Our main area that we are working in is in Oslo, and we are owned by Sparebank 1 Gruppen and Kredinor Stiftelsen. We have more than 4,300 active clients spread across big segments and all around the Nordics. From the big international companies to your local hairdresser. And we have 2 main revenue splits. One is PI, which is our bought portfolios, and one is CMS, where we are handling cases on behalf of our customers, clients. So that's short about us.
Well, that's certainly interesting to hear that. And can we maybe start from the beginning? So can you tell us a little bit, Magnus, what did your planning and financial follow-up look like before you started to explore new ways of working?
I think that Jörgen is the most best guy to answer this, as he's the tech guy, so he will start on this one.
Yeah, so before ProfitBase, we used Excel like many others do for almost everything, so planning, forecasting, and reporting. And it worked in a basic sense, but it gave us very limited visibility. and everything was very manual, which meant we had a high risk of error as well. And then it took quite a lot of time just to consolidate the numbers from the different business units that we have. You could just consider how much time it would take consolidating almost 60 different files into one sheet, especially considering that everyone does things in a slightly different way.
I think a lot of people can recognize themselves coming from Excel. How did this show up in your day-to-day work? So did it affect decisions in the organization?
Yes, definitely. And the most important thing is that maybe it can lead to wrongly decisions, because Excel has some flaws, but it's fairly good. But you can type in wrongly data. You can have formulas that are maybe not up to date. And like Jørgen said, consolidation takes a lot of time when there are 60 people with 60 different sheets, and you have to consolidate every time someone is doing something. So access control is also very important. And the worst case scenario here is that wrong numbers can lead to wrong decisions, and that may affect our staffing. Our people are our most important resource, so we don't want anything harm to happen to them.
And was this the main reason why you decided that you need to look for an alternative way?
So I think we simply just recognized that we needed something better. So Excel, as we said, was too manual, too fragile, too prone to errors. So we needed something that was more robust, better control, and a clearer overview.
Let's talk about that a little bit. So once you decided to explore alternatives, what was the most important things that you needed in order to find a solution?
I think something that is easy to manage for us as a kind of geeks, but also for all managers in Kredinor. Not all are that interested in numbers, and we have different capabilities, everyone. So I think easy, not so many clicks, not possible to remove figures like it is in Excel, and that it can be consolidated quicker, because time is money for everyone. So I think that's very important. But also, like I mentioned, access control is also very critical, because we don't want anyone else that are supposed to view, for instance, salary, sensitive data. So we want people to see what they can see and should see, and not everything else.
Okay, interesting. And now we have a question coming up here. I hope everybody can see it. So if you wouldn't mind helping us to answer this, we'll share the response shortly here. Once you decided once you decided to move to something else, what did the internal process to arrive at the decision? What did that look like?
I guess in terms of process, it wasn't much of a drawn out decision. So we had it was fairly straightforward. I think it started with me having a conversation with our head of controlling, and then with some input from the CFO. We just figured that we needed something that was better, a better tool for what we were doing.
And what, if I may ask you, what was it that ultimately led you to decide on profit base as the solution?
Back in the days, Kredinor used profit base. It was maybe 8 years ago before we started with profit base in 2023. So it was a fairly long time ago, and no one or some could remember something. And our manager, head of business controlling, was one that had a good experience with profit base. So he recommended that we should try to test it. And he remembered it as a solution that had a high level of customization, and again, third time I mention it, access control. It's very important. So I think that summarizes it.
Okay, well, very interesting. And just for the audience here, just to let everybody know, I mean, Profit Base is Hypergene's. It's Hypergene's all-in-one CFO platform designed to help companies move from manual spreadsheets to digitalized financial planning, budgeting, forecasting, and reporting. So once you decided upon this, let's talk about the journey that you've been through. Could you tell us a little bit how the process went by when you decided to implement this?
Yes. So it was a partly structured project, I would say. So we had a close collaboration with between us and Profit Base. So we started with a clear data requirement spec that we got from Profit Base, and then we rolled out from there. We didn't have too much time for testing in the first round, so the solution was somewhat developed along the way. But we started with the data spec and went from there.
And what was most important to ensure that you got off to a good start?
We had a dedicated person at the Profit Base, and we have had this same person the entire journey. So Thomas at Profit Base in Sandnes, shout out to him. He's been a great resource for us. He has answered questions day and night, and that's a fact. And it's crucial because then you don't have to explain our organization, our problems every time to a new guy. So that was important. We had also training sessions for our managers. We had time slots on each forecast every quarter. We had dedicated time slots in our calendar that people could attend and ask questions if it was related to numbers, or if it was more of a technical stuff, where to insert this kind of data. So I think that is very important, but also we made a user guide with step-by-step things to do for our employees in Norden, so that we are certain that they are inserting all the data that we want them to insert. So that was I think that led to a good start for us.
Okay, so a lot of focus making it easier for the users to adopt it. Did you feel a lot of resistance in the organization in terms of a change that because you were going, of course, from a very familiar way of working into a new way of working here. How did the organization perceive that?
I guess you could say not all of the people in Kredinor love Excel as much as we do. So I guess the first reaction was it was great that we were moving on to something new, and then obviously something new is also a bit scary. So we had some mixed reactions, but I think we sold it quite nicely to the organization, so they were hyped to try something new.
Yeah, and I can speak for myself as well. I was a kind of skeptical. I'm always kind of skeptical with new things, but at the end, it's definitely worth it, because we are now saving a lot of time, and all our employees are saving a lot of time, and the data is much better. So it's a win-win for us.
Yeah.
Excellent. You mentioned a couple of things here as well. You mentioned the dedicated contact, having someone who really understood, not only, the solution, but actually got to know yourself and your business. Are there any other things that you thought were really critical in terms of, implementation success in order to ensure you got off to a good start?
So obviously the data specs that we got as well. Something that was a requirement. So understanding that was quite critical. We did have some issues with understanding that in the beginning, but we did do some testing as well before we rolled out. So that helped identifying some of the issues that we could potentially face when starting with the organization.
Okay, and how do How do you, Kredinor, use profit base in your day-to-day work today?
So now profit base is our shared tool for planning, forecasting, and reporting. So we have much more standardized processes now. We have better visibility, and then significantly less manual work than we had before. So the controlling team, Magnus and I and the rest of our team, we use it almost daily. And beyond that, it's used quarterly by all the managers in our organization.
Yeah, and it's so easy to use that we can go into, for instance, the last forecast and see what did we type in here with comments, with all the numbers that we used on the last forecast, because we are forecasting every quarter, and we are sometimes also budgeting. So this is our we are right now at our 6th forecast, and together with 2 budgets. So we think that we are pretty good now at this. But as we come into later, we have some things that we want to do as well. Some more things that we want to explore.
And what are those typical things?
We want to automate a lot more to save even more time. And also, if we automate more, then we may remove typical more typing errors, because we are human beings. We can do mistakes, and if we automate, then we can remove those kind of mistakes. So it's better for us to save time, but also to automate.
Was there anything during this journey that was more challenging than you expected?
Yes, I mean, I said a few words about it previously, as we had some issues with the data. So it's I mean, everyone knows the phrase "shit in, shit out." So our data wasn't perfect, and then we had to try and tailor that data to match the profit-based data requirements. And we have it's not super difficult, but our structure, the way we want to do things, is a bit tricky. So getting the format and the quality and the setup to match what we wanted was a bit difficult. So I guess you could say we expected it to be slightly more automatic than it was, a bit more of a plug and play solution.
And what would you, if you look back to your implementation journey today, what if anything would you do differently if you were to start over?
Maybe more testing before we start. But at the same time, if we test more, maybe we can find all errors or everything in a testing period. I think that a testing period can be good, but it can also be not that good. Maybe involve more people at the testing period, because we were controllers and we have our eyes to look at things. Involve people from operations that are maybe supposed to insert data. Yeah, we can't find anything, but I think that we used maybe 2 weeks or something with the testing and the data, with our data, and maybe that it was a bit too little. And maybe we should have known more about the connection between profit base and Kredinor, and like Jørgen said, that our data was not 100%. So it's a lot about data quality. Yeah.
So data quality was the most important, one of the most important aspects. Okay. If we look ahead, so looking at what changes and improvement have you seen now since you started to use profit base?
I would say that one of the main things that we see is that we have a better control overall. it's way easier to make changes. It's easier to get a clear picture of where things stand. And the organization has taken a lot more ownership of their own forecast. So previously it felt like the forecasts were something that we did, or that they would typically, if we asked them to explain what the difference to forecast was, they would say, that's what you told me to input.
Yeah.
So that has definitely changed now, where we can go to them and say, this is you have a difference to your forecast. What's the reason? And they will actually have an answer. So that's really valuable for us.
And is there any concrete examples you can share here?
Yeah. We have earlier we used Excel, like we told earlier, and then we couldn't forecast at the level that we wanted to because of it was too many details. We have, I think, I don't know exactly how many accounts we have today. We have a lot, too many. So now we are actually forecasting and budgeting on account level. And it may sound scary, but a lot of these accounts are blocked in profit base, so managers cannot add the data here, and that's when automation comes into picture. Jørgen and I are doing a lot at the back, adding data to these accounts that they can't add data to. For instance, we have a social account where X amount of NOK is supposed to be used on social things per employee, and that's something that is automated through how many employees are there in your cost center, yeah, it's a completely different picture. We also build a module in with licenses with consultants. For instance, on licenses, it's that much of a detail that we can forecast on vendors. So we can forecast how much of money we are supposed to be using on, for instance, Copilot, and then when we receive the invoice, then we can compare, is it the same as the forecast? So we have a lot of more data now. It's much more to dig in. It may be too much to handle for us right now, but it's the more the better, we think.
And I can mention that speaking of invoices for vendors, we can also now use it to see if we've received the invoice that we expect. Because we have a forecast on that specific vendor that we wouldn't have before. I have to add though that we did go from Excel to Power BI on the actuals part of things, which helps us a lot as well. So because profit base and like the previous Excel sheets into Power BI at the same time means that we can compare numbers way easier than we did before. So yeah.
So in a way, it has evolved your way of working. If you were to summarize, what is the single most important value that this has enabled? If you were to pick out maybe one thing here.
If one thing would be control. If I were allowed to add another thing, I would say transparency. But control would be the main thing. So we know who has input what, we know who can see what, we know where people haven't done what they need to be doing. We can see what's missing. So it's a completely different situation than we had before, where we had to look at each separate Excel sheet to identify if someone maybe forgot to input some numbers on account 5,000. Now we can see that with maybe 2 clicks instead.
But we love Excel, so it seems like we love profit base even more. But we love both. But for forecasting, I think that profit base is one step up, definitely.
Excellent. If we were to look ahead, you talked a little bit about automation. Can we talk a bit about this? What changes and improvement is it that you've seen since you started to use this? And maybe more importantly, what are the next steps in your development with profit base?
Yeah, we are continuously developing our solution in profit base. And Jørgen, as the tech guy, he does a lot of this. At the start, it was Thomas, our guy at profit base, that did a lot of this, but he has showed us how we're supposed to do it and where to click and everything. And then now we are actually building our own modules. So for instance, this license module where we see our vendors, we are building a consultants module. Next step will be to build a capex module. We are focusing, until now, we have focused a lot of our OPEX, but we need to find a way to control our capex figures as well. So that will be the next step. But automation is something that we are continuously doing. We are closing our accounts for input from our managers, so that they will save time. But like I mentioned, it's not only about saving time, but it's also about inserting the best figures and figures that are correct. And sometimes I say sometimes, not every time, but sometimes we know better than the managers what they're supposed to insert. So the less they can use their time on, the better.
Excellent. And in what way have changing solution contributed to you now having opportunity to automate more?
I think we are all more structured in Kredinor, both our team, but the entire management team in Kredinor. We are saving time. Time management is crucial. We have to every quarter we have to send numbers to SpareBank 1 group, so that they can consolidate after we have consolidated. So it's fairly streamlined, and it's strict. We have to have one deadline that we have to have this deadline, and if we can't follow it, SpareBank 1 can follow it. And until now, we have followed every deadline, so we are fairly happy with that.
Very interesting. And when you look back to the change that happened in the organization, you've been through a big implementation, a changed way of working. What has been the reaction of your organization and your teams in these changes?
I think most people are very happy. As I said, ownership is definitely something that's changed. So, and I think it's, I don't want to attribute everything to Magnus and myself, but I mean, we have tried to make it a bit more exciting for them as well. So, like we have competitions now on hitting numbers, hitting the forecast in the best possible way. But the effect of that was that I think almost everyone almost all the managers at least are working in profit base feels like the forecast is not so much a challenge anymore. So it's not something they dread. They know it's going to happen next quarter. It's not something to be afraid of. So some of them even look forward to it now. So that's a big change for us.
I think that especially look forward to the competitions.
Yes, of course.
I think that everyone likes to be on top of a podium. So last time we had when we started our forecast 6, I think it was 2-3 weeks ago. Then we had some slides for the last forecast, and then we made a podium with the names on, and it was the competition was to be the most precise regarding revenue, and we also had one competition regarding costs, because not all these cost centers, not all managers have revenue. So we had to have one competition for people that are maintaining revenue, and the other for cost. And then we had some special prizes dedicated for the people that want. And that is something that we will continue with. It was fairly fun.
Yeah, it's a low cost and high effect thing to do, I think.
Very, very interesting. And this is where your athlete background comes into play, making it competitive and managing the people change.
Yeah, it's the most important thing is to have fun, and we are having fun.
Sounds good. Last question from my side here. What advice and lessons would you share with other organizations who are facing similar challenges and considering embarking upon a similar journey?
So yeah, we touched a bit upon it, but like having the proper, I wouldn't necessarily say longer, but having the proper testing period is crucial. So and include users from different parts of the company before you go live. So we did mainly our controlling team, and we can typically only spot certain things. So include the people who are actually going to be using the system as well as yourself. And then secondly, make sure that you understand the data structure requirements. It sounds scary. It's not difficult. It's just something that you need to understand before you start. And the third lesson, which I guess we wish we had known from the beginning, is what we say TTT, which is things take time. It's always more challenging than you expect. It doesn't matter how good the system is, it's always going to take more time. It's not a plug and play thing, but it's definitely worth it in the end if you take the time.
Well, I'll definitely be taking that with me. Thank you so much for sharing your journey so openly. And this kind of honesty, I think, is exactly what makes this so valuable for everyone who is attending today. So thank you very much for both of you. Let's move over to a couple of questions. Elin, would you like to help me out here?
Yes, I'd love to. I actually have some questions. So the first one is actually, how do you handle sensitive data and access permissions in Profit Base?
Yes. So in the beginning, I guess we had Thomas who did it for us. But as we've learned how the system works, we can manage all the permissions ourselves. So it's a 2-second operation where I input the name of a person and change and let the system know what they should and should not see. Which means that all the sensitive data that we do have in the system is only visible to the people who are actually supposed to see it.
Interesting, and very good to hear. Next question, how long did it take before the system really felt embedded in your organization?
Good question. Now, like I said, we have used Profit Base for 6 forecasts, and I think that maybe on the second attempt, forecast 2, we felt that people were doing it a lot better, and we also saw that fewer people are attending our time slots that we had dedicated slots in our calendar. We hope that also the user manual was fairly in use. So we have continuously developed, and but I think that we can say one more time, things take time. It takes time to use a new system, and it is what it is. But yeah, I think that summarizes it.
Yeah, maybe
Sounds
one or
very
two.
good.
Yes.
Yeah. And maybe this is connected to the question before, but how did you engage managers in the organization? How did you get them to actually use the tool?
Yeah, so I did mention the competition previously, which is not actually something that we did in the beginning. So, but that's definitely another thing that we did to make it even more fun. But we did, like Magnus said, we had time slots where we were available for everyone. So that helped them. It made it easier for them, I guess, to test the system and try it out, and then ask all both the good and the bad questions that they have. And we've told them, we tell them every time that we welcome bad questions or silly questions, but we prefer to have them in the beginning of the process. So, but that means that they know that we're open to everything, and I think that helps a lot to have someone like we had Thomas in Profit Base. They have us to ask everything, which makes it easier for them to just test it and try it.
Yeah, and Teams is just one click away, and they can ask us directly questions, or we have also one common Teams chat for all forecasts, and then in this Teams chat we are almost 60 people, so we try to minimize the stupid questions there, but it happens that stupid questions occur, and we answer, no problem. But stupid questions at the end of the process, like Jürgen said, not welcomed.
Okay.
I would also say that we've tried to, because there was some reluctance in the beginning, like with Magnus, we've tried to emphasize that, like, the value of this, and make them understand that if they do better work now, that means that we can push the data that they're using now forward to the next period, which means that the next period is going to be even less work. So I think as soon as they understood that as well, that helped a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot of work on the first forecast,
everything was new.
adding data, new structure, everything. But the data can be added to the next period. So we are always forecasting 12 months ahead. So then they always have the next, the last 3 quarters already inserted, and they just need to put some small changes.
Yeah.
Okay, I had another question coming in here. So, how difficult was it to justify the decision for a new solution internally? Did you need to build a business case out, or did you need to do anything else? Or ultimately, how easy was it to explain the value?
We are actually changes needs to be done. We actually need business case, but on this case we didn't need it.
I think we circumvent the process there. The need was so clear that it was something that we could decide on without like a due process almost. But obviously we needed to make sure that this was something that we would use, and that it wasn't just something that we did. But I think internally it wasn't much, at least not in the decision-making part of the team. It wasn't something that we needed to clear too much. The CFO was on board before we started, and then the head of controlling, which ultimately is the one I think who decided upon this, had some experience with Profit Base, which definitely helped. And then, as I said, we went from Excel, and we were looking into Power BI for our results as well. So this was like a natural step. So I think that made it easier for us, probably.
You talked a lot about the transparency and control earlier. If you go back now to your teams and to the organization that's been through this change, what do you feel is there? What's the perception in the team today?
I think that they are happy, because the last thing that we did was to hand out prizes because of great performance. But also they are saving a lot of time, and I think that most people don't like Excel. But people in this audience, I think that they like Excel, but they see what kind of flaws Excel has. And I think that Profit Base has solved this issue for us.
And on that topic, did you find that making that change, because you got of course a lot of people, a lot of decision makers on this webinar who might be sitting there, where Excel is fairly embedded in the organization, and of course people are used to it, they know how to work it. If you think back to this, was it difficult to get the organization to shift from your perspective?
No, not at all.
No, I guess in the beginning, some people were still doing their Excel sheets in the background and then plotting it into profit base, but not that much resistance. No.
Good. That's about all the questions I got there. Elin, do you see any other questions, or did we cover those here?
No other questions. I think we've covered them all, actually. So I would like to thank you, all of you, especially Magnus and Jörgen, for joining us, and to you, Daniel, for moderating these questions and this webinar today. Very good. I think it was very appreciated from all of the ones who's watching, and we've gained a lot of questions also, so that's very nice. If you would like to learn more about Profit Base, you who's watching, you can just press the button and book a demo in the screen, or you can also just read more about Profit Base on this button. And you can also follow Hypein on LinkedIn here if you would like to see what we are posting and what's happening next here at the company. And with that said, of course, we're going to send the recording afterwards, after this session. And we would also like to wish you all a great day. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Magnus and Jörgen.
Thank you. Bye.